going to be looking at scopes. A variable's scope is the part of a program that has access to the variable. Every single variable has its own scope. The scope of a program is the part where a variable can be used. So some rules that define a variable scope are that a variable cannot be used in any part of the program before its definition. So you see how I'm calling this class number, this one right here, this is the whole class number, I'm calling it right here. Well, if I were to take number and put it afterwards, we would get an error because we have an unknown name type number. And this has to be for any variable that we want to use, or class, or method, as you can see. The second rule is that we have these accessors right here. So we have protected, private, and public. Those are the main ones. Don't need to worry about default for now. We just have these three, have to remember those. They all allow you to access something in a different way. So let's go for this example. Line 6, we have string x is equal to global. This means that global can be used anywhere. This variable is global. So if I were to do cout and I pass in an x, it would print out global. But notice how we have string x here. So what I said would only be true if this was a different variable name. Since this variable inside of this method has the same value, or has the same name as this, what do you think is going to happen? Well, it's going to favor the one with the closer scope. So string x equals to John, it's going to print out John here instead of global. We can test it out right now. I'll change this to x1, and we're just going to run this. You'll see it's first going to print out global because it is currently x. And then if I were to change this back from x1 to x on line 20, oh, we have an error right here, unused variable. I don't like how Replit doesn't allow unused variables to go unused. So changing this back, you can see that x here is going to print out John like this. But if I were to change this into like ax, it's going to search for the other x, which would be this global one, and it should print out global. And that's going to be it for that first example. As you can see, it printed out global. Let's look at how we would access this class right here. Well, this class has a single variable. It's called int speed, and in speed, it has a protected accessor above it. So that means if I go down here and I have the class number, I have an instance of it, I want n to print out, right? So we'll do cout, and we're going to do n dot, well, what comes up? Only temp, not speed. Why is that? Because it's protected. And if you try to force it, you have speed, and you just put in 50. So let's say you want to pass 50 into speed. Well, it's not going to let you. It's going to say that speed is a protected member of number. If we change this to public, though, we can access it. If we change it to private, we won't be able to access it anymore. So it has to be public. Now, if we didn't have this public on line 11, like this private right here, it would keep going down, and it would not contaminate, but it would make everything private. The way to fix that is what I did here. You have a different accessor above what you're trying to do. So you're going to have to change it depending on what you're trying to do. So notice how the actual variable speed is private, and this method is public. So we can comment this out. Let's try to access our temp value. So let's do cout, and then we are going to have n.temp. There we go. So inside of here, it's going to print, but there's nothing inside of here to print. So let's go in here, and we'll do a cout in here, and we're just going to do this. We can end this line. Let's run it. So basically, it's going to go through our main. We're going to hit this. We're going to make an instance of our number. We're going to want to print our n.temp, which is this. So it prints this cout right here. It creates this variable, and then it just returns. That's all it does. Now, it's not going to be able to print first name, and that's because this is actually private inside of this class. If a field is not a variable for the class, it's inside of a method, you can't access it. And that's just because first name is not a part of our number class, it's part of our temp method. So that's pretty much all that there is in terms of our private, public, and protected, as well as variable scopes. If you have any questions, you can always leave them in the comments below. If you want more C++, send the playlist link below that like button.